source option. 2. Next, search for some random text that you know is present on the page. If you find the text, the site is likely using either server-side rendering or static site generation. Hey everyone, welcome back to our web performance series. In today's video, we're diving into the world of rendering strategies. But before we get started, if you missed our last video where we talked about the importance of web performance and ways to reduce JavaScript bundle size, be sure to check it out. The link is in the description below. Now, let's get into it. What exactly is rendering? Well, simply put, rendering is the process of creating the final HTML code that your browser shows you on the screen. Think of it as assembling all the pieces of a puzzle to create the complete picture. Let's break it down with a simple example. Imagine you're craving a delicious pizza. What do you do next? Option 1, you could order a pizza from your favorite restaurant. They'll take care of everything, from preparing the dough to adding your favorite toppings, and then deliver it piping hot to your doorstep. Option 2, you could choose to make the pizza yourself at home. This means heading to the store, buying all the ingredients, rolling out the dough, and popping it into the oven. Now, which option is better? Well, it really depends on the situation. If you're really hungry and want pizza pronto, ordering from the restaurant is probably your best bet. But if you've got some time to spare and enjoy the process of cooking, making it at home could be more satisfying. Now, let's relate this to web development. When you visit a website, your browser needs to fetch all the necessary ingredients, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files, from the server and then put them together to display the final page. This process is similar to making pizza at home. It takes a bit of time and effort to gather all the ingredients and assemble them. This is what we call client-side rendering, CSR, in web development. But what if instead of sending you all the ingredients, the server just sends you the final, fully prepared HTML page? Your browser simply displays it without any additional work. This is like ordering a ready-made pizza from the restaurant, quick, easy, and less effort on your part. In web development, we call this server-side rendering, SSR. Remember, both methods have their own pros and cons, just like ordering food or cooking at home. Now, let's delve deeper into these rendering strategies. There are 3 main rendering strategies in web development. 1. Client-side rendering, CSR. 2. Server-side rendering, SSR. 3. Static site generation, SSG. Client-side rendering, CSR. Client-side rendering is like making pizza at home. Here, the browser fetches a basic HTML, CSS, and JavaScript files from the server. Then, JavaScript gets to work to render the final page. Client-side frameworks such as React, Vue, or Angular fetch data and dynamically render the page. CSR allows for highly interactive and dynamic content. It's perfect for single-page applications where users expect seamless transitions and real-time updates. Since most of the heavy lifting is done on the client side, it can be cost-effective for server resources. The initial load time can be slower because the browser needs to fetch all the necessary files, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then render the page. Not good for SEO. Search engines, like Google, might have a tough time crawling and indexing your site if it's heavy on JavaScript. Why? Because when those crawlers visit your site, they only see that minimal HTML file, missing out on the dynamic content that gets rendered later. Next up, we have server-side rendering, SSR. As the name suggests, in SSR, the server takes on the heavy lifting. With SSR, the server generates a fully populated HTML page and sends it straight to the browser. No assembly required on the client side, it's all ready to go. Faster loading, the page appears quickly because everything is ready to go. Better chance to be found on search engines like simple HTML, so your site can show up higher in search results. More work for the server has to make the whole page every time user asks for it. Costs more money, since the server has to do more, it can cost more. Let's discuss static site generation, SSG, now. Create static HTML files once during the build process and stores them for when users visit the site. When user accesses the site, their browser simply retrieves these pre-made pages. Super quick initial load, since the browser only needs to grab the static HTML file, the page loads fast. Top-notch SEO, search engines love static content, so your site can rank well in search results. Saves money, the server doesn't have to work hard because the pages are already made and ready to go. Not so dynamic, it's not great for real-time data because the pages are pre-made and don't change on the fly. Needs rebuilding when content updates. Whenever content changes, the server has to redo the static HTML files to keep them up to date. So, which rendering strategy should you choose? There's no one-size-fits-all solution. It depends on your web app's requirements. Let's compare. Client-side rendering, CSR, ideal for dynamic and interactive content, but not great for SEO. Good for apps like chat applications or admin dashboards. Server-side rendering, SSR, offers fast initial load and excellent SEO, but not suited for highly dynamic apps. Great for e-commerce websites or blogs. Static site generation, SSG, provides blazing fast initial load and excellent SEO, but not great for real-time data. Perfect for company websites like portfolios or About Us pages. But what if we combine these strategies for the best of both worlds? Full-stack frameworks like Next.js and Nux.js offer hybrid rendering strategies like SSR plus CSR or SSG plus CSR, allowing you to choose the best approach for each page in your web app. Here are 2 key points to remember. 1. Server-side rendering, SSR, works best for the first page load. 2. Client-side rendering, CSR, is more suitable for subsequent page loads. When we load a page using server-side rendering, SSR, initially, the browser quickly fetches the fully populated HTML page and promptly renders it, displaying the content to the user without delay. Once the page is fully loaded in the browser, the client-side framework, like React, Vue, or Angular, takes over, providing a seamless experience by fetching data and dynamically rendering the page. This approach offers the advantages of both worlds, a fast initial load and dynamic content. It's particularly beneficial for e-commerce websites, blogs, and other web apps that prioritize both SEO and user experience. Full-stack frameworks such as Next.js and Nux.js come with SSR plus CSR capabilities built in, making them convenient and straightforward to implement. Let's apply the blog example to static site generation, SSG, along with client-side rendering, CSR. How often do author updates blog content? Not very frequently. Usually, when a blog is new, authors might make changes like fixing typos or adding new content. But over time, the content tends to remain unchanged for a long time, if not forever. So, why use server-side rendering, SSR, to generate blog pages for every request? What if we use static site generation, SSG, for blog pages older than 1 month and server-side rendering, SSR, for those newer than 1 month? This way, older blog pages are pre-rendered and readily available for browsers, while newer pages are rendered on the server and sent to the browser. However, there's a catch. We can't directly use static site generation for older blog pages because any changes to the content would require rebuilding the static HTML files. This isn't ideal since we can't control how frequently the content changes. To tackle this, Next.js introduces incremental static regeneration, ISR. With ISR, when someone requests an older blog page, the server generates the static HTML file for that page and keeps it ready to serve to the browser. We can also set a revalidation time for older blog pages to regenerate static HTML files after a certain period to keep the content fresh. But the issue remains the same, the content changes beyond our control even with a set revalidation time. To address this, Next.js offers an on-demand revalidation feature to regenerate static HTML files when the content changes. This ensures that older blog pages are regenerated when necessary, keeping the content up to date. While this is a great option, it's important to consider business requirements and content change frequency carefully. Let's briefly discuss the cost-effectiveness of these rendering strategies. 1. Client-side rendering, CSR, and static site generation, SSG, are cost-effective because the client handles most of the workload. An easy solution is to utilize cloud storage like an S3 bucket to store static files, and a CDN to efficiently serve them to the client. This setup can scale easily and is cost-effective. 2. Server-side rendering, SSR, tends to be more expensive than client-side rendering, CSR, because the server has to do more work for each request. You'll need a robust server to manage the workload, which can become costly as traffic increases. Here's a quick way to check which rendering strategy a website is using. While it may not give you the exact strategy, it can give you a good idea. 1. Open any site and right-click on the page. Then, click on the View Page Source option. 2. Next, search for some random text that you know is present on the page. If you find the text, the site is likely using either server-side rendering or static site generation. 3. If you don't find the text, the site is likely using client-side rendering. Additionally, if you scroll down and select some text from the bottom of the page, it might not be available in the source code because it's loaded using client-side rendering after JavaScript takes control of the page. Infinite scrolling is a good example of client-side rendering. If you scroll down and the page keeps loading more content. In summary, rendering strategies significantly impact your web app's performance, SEO, and user experience. Whether you're creating a simple blog or a complex e-commerce site, it's essential to choose the right strategy wisely. Remember, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. It's crucial to experiment, test, and optimize to find what works best for your specific needs. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. Until next time, happy coding!